Ladies and gentlemen, in studio with us, and join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, Make It Plain. In studio with us once again as he is in the city at the NAACP office here in New York, and he's moving around the country. I'm glad he's taking time for us. Derrick Johnson, the president of NAACP, is right here with us as we hear the voice of Detroit's own Aretha Franklin. This is Detroit's own Derrick Johnson by way of Mississippi. But everybody from Detroit is from Mississippi anyway, so.
Well, Tennessee in my case.
Tennessee?
My people from West Tennessee.
I thought you were in Mississippi one time.
I live in Mississippi.
You live in, oh, but you didn't, but your people originally from West Tennessee?
From West Tennessee, just north of Dyersburg. See, black migration
I didn't know that.
Took people in different directions, and so there was a large number of individuals who came from Memphis and West Tennessee to go to Detroit.
Okay.
So many people that there was a Tennessee Baptist church, and they would have an annual homecoming, and the folks from Tennessee would go there to see folks that migrated.
That was the name of the church in Detroit?
Tennessee Baptist Church.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
In fact, the current sheriff, his father was the pastor of the church.
Really?
Yeah. C.L. Franklin was from Tennessee.
Right, that's right. Right.
Memphis. There's a whole community that came from West Tennessee, Brownville, Dyersburg, Crockett County, that whole area.
So now, were you from Memphis or out?
No. I'm born and raised in Detroit. My family migrated from Tennessee.
Were they from Memphis?
No, they was from Dyersburg.
Dyersburg, okay.
Dyer County and Crockett County.
Okay.
Nice country folk.
Derrick Johnson's with us. How are you, man?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Fine. You keep busy, I know. This is it.
If we're not busy now, we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't be existing.
This is it, brother.
Oh yeah.
We got 5 days. The NAACP has been working hard to get out to vote, to get people out to vote. Of course, NAACP is a nonpartisan organization. So what they do is encourage people to get out and vote, and this is absolutely necessary at this time, especially our people, because we make a big difference.
Oh yeah, we as an organization, we don't have to be partisan. Black folks, we suffer from this positive condition that Naeem Akbar called collective consciousness, that the shared history and struggle and fight that we've experienced, we're able to migrate in ways in which in this political space we operate more in unison than any other community. 92 to 95% of us will respond to certain messaging and things the same way. And as a result of that, it allows us to discern when there are looming threats. And right now, this election, our lives depend on it. We understand the threat. We see the threat. We felt the threat last week with the mail bombs and the killing in Louisville, Kentucky. And thank God for that black church that was locked.
Yeah.
Because as opposed to two people being killed.
He went by the church first.
By the church first. The doors were locked. Over 70 people was in the church. And I was in Louisville that following day. And that pastor, he talked about why he shifted to lock the doors, and it was a result of what happened in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's real. I'm sad though. 20 minutes before the hour, that that Louisville shooting, it didn't get a lot of attention at first on its own. It got more attention later in the context of the MAGA bomber and what happened at the synagogue.
Well, it was so much that took place in 72 hours. We're not talking about one thing happened 1 month or 1 week. In 72 hours, we were saturated with information. And one of the things I'm always concerned about is news agencies always having breaking news on their lower third bottom. Everything is not a breaking news.
No, it's not. It's
right?
not.
But what happened in that last week in those 72 hours goes beyond breaking news, because what was validated was the reality that the hate germinating from the White House have infected minds in ways in which people feel emboldened to take action.
Yeah.
Whether they're taking it collectively or individually, the messaging, the tone of intolerance, the racial hatred has emboldened individuals to put bombs in the mail, to go to places of worship, to kill people.
Really, what is the difference between what we're dealing with now as we see this unfolding and what the leaders in NAACP had to deal with in the 50s and 60s there. It's the same kind of violence.
It's the same kind of violence, but the experience from that time have taught us many lessons, and as a result of that, we can respond appropriately. And an appropriate response in a democracy is leveraging our vote. That's our currency, and hold people accountable, as well as identify people to replace the ones that need to get out of office.
So, folks, as we've been saying, the best way, the most significant and the most direct way now, there's a lot we have to do long term, but in the next few days, what you can do is vote. You can go out and you can vote, and that can be your pushback against what we've been seeing.
There's no power without policy. There's no policy without policymakers, and policymakers only get in office if you elect them. And so we can make it as complicated as we want to, or we can make it as simple as we need to. And what we need to do is go out and vote to get the policymakers in place, to put the policies in that we need in place so that we can develop the sense of power and security. And that is the goal. In a democracy, the vote is the currency, and it's the stepping stone. Oftentimes, we over-intellectualize what the problems are or what the solution could be, and we skip over the simple thing. And a simple thing is leveraging our collective vote.
That's right. Folks, this is it. Election day on Tuesday. Derrick Johnson, the president of NAACP, with us. So from here, you're heading to Detroit.
Yes.
Heading home.
Head to Michigan. I'm not going home. I'm going to Detroit, where I'm from, but I'm going to Michigan because that's where we need to turn out to vote.
Okay.
Then we go to Georgia, Florida, Texas, back to Georgia. We're moving. And we have to. All of us who are charged with responsibility to respond to the needs and interests of our community, if we're not mobile at this moment, that means we shouldn't exist.
No, right. I mean, we can't afford to be still right now. How, from your point of view, is the Get Out the Vote campaign going? Have you feel that you've been getting the kind of response?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think people they understand the Power of Five campaign. We said early on that if you're going to go vote, get 5 people to do the same. If you can get 5 people to do the same, get 5 people to get 5 additional people. The Power of Five. We have to turn out. We need presidential level turnout this cycle in order for us to get the results that are needed. Checks and balances are important. We are the checks and balance to this system. African Americans, we are the moral compass. We are the anchor to ensure that democracy works for everyone. And if we don't participate, if we don't leverage our collective voices, we will find ourselves in a scenario where we are targeted much more aggressively than we are currently being targeted.
So the Willie Horton is trending on Twitter this morning because of the ad that has come out about the immigrant who allegedly killed all these police, and they're using that as a modern day sort of Willie Horton ad, and they have video of all these people coming up here on this so-called caravan and trying to get in the United States, even though they're nowhere near the United States. I mean, Derrick, that's just more racism. It's more race baiting.
But it's also to be expected. That's the thing that we must never underestimate how low individuals will go, because they've demonstrated they can go as low as go to places of worship and kill people.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, this ad shouldn't surprise us. But for African Americans in our experience and our innate ability to discern a looming threat, we must act on that threat. Fear is the biggest motivator. It can propel people to act, or it can paralyze.
Right.
And we can't afford to be paralyzed. We must act. In a democracy, that action has to be through the vote.
We've also seen, I know when there were concerns about voter suppression in 2012, that motivated more people to go out and vote.
Absolutely. I mean,
so that ought to be the case in 2018 too, right?
You think about history. Mitt Romney, he didn't have a secession speech. All of the data told him he was going to win. That was a secession speech.
Right.
He had only a victory speech, and yet we turned out and he didn't win. In 2016, the current president, he didn't have a victory speech. He had no concept that he could win. And so we can't assume that this thing is over by no means. We must go act as if that our last breath depend on going to the ballot box and making sure we take at least 5 people with us.
Just got this email from Malik at the NAACP. So there's a press conference today. The Racial Equity Anchor Collaborative of the Kellogg Foundation is saying that young people of color are ready to vote and motivated by racial justice.
Absolutely. You know, we're part of collaborative as African American community, Latino community, Asian American, Pacific Islander, Native Americans, and we wanted to go and get some research. What's motivating people to get involved? And what we found out of that research is young people of color are energized. They see the problem. They follow Twitter. They're on Instagram, and they see the racial hate. And as a result of that, it is encouraging to know that they are willing to take action. And then for us, we have to direct that action to the ballot box.
Folks, Derrick Johnson, the president of NAACP, with us. Another issue that's been a hot topic on this show is this birthright citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's a coincidence either that he's bringing that up a few days before the election. But that is something that is rooted in our history. Now, some are using that, Derrick. They're saying, well, we know what that was meant for back when it happened, but it shouldn't be the case any longer. What's your reaction to that? So
some time ago, I talked to you about what's at stake for this election. I talked about there are 88 state legislative bodies on the ballot after the 97. Right. I talked about those legislators will be in place to draw the political boundary lines in 2020 we call redistricting. I talked about the need to get control of some of those legislative bodies because of census, but I also talked about the call for the Constitutional Convention. And in that call, where 28 states have already signed up to redraft or amend parts of our constitutions, one of the leading interests in that call is the question of citizenship and birthright rights. Mm-hmm. And what the president has just done is taken one of the talking points off the shelf to use to energize his base. Mm-hmm. What he's saying is not unheard of because it's a part of a larger strategy. He just took it off the shelf probably sooner than they wanted it off the shelf, mm-hmm. because there is a strategy to amend and rewrite portions of the Constitution. And the thing they want to do is get to the 14th Amendment to redefine citizenship.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Derrick Johnson with us, folks. 11 minutes for the hour. Let's get a couple of calls in. Pleasure to have Derrick here in studio with us. Allison is in Florida. Allison, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke and vote. Get out the vote. Get ready for impeachment. You're on the air with Derrick Johnson, the president of NAACP. Go right ahead, Allison.
Thanks so much for taking my call.
Have you voted already?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
You know, it's astounding to me that your last two callers do not see how if he is allowed to do this by executive order, where somebody who was stumbling for him on CNN yesterday was saying, well, just wait, the Supreme Court will decide. What's going to stop him from doing that with freedom of speech, where he's continually attacking the media as the enemy of the people?
Right.
People have a very short memory. They don't understand that everything he is doing is from the playbook of every dictator that has ever walked on this planet. And our lives are at stake. The soul of our nation is at stake. What makes America great is everything that we became that was different,
right,
from all these other countries. Mm-hmm. We are different. We are different. Everyone who's here is an immigrant. You want to take away, birthright citizenship, we should do the right thing and give America back to the Native Americans.
Right.
I mean, this is absolutely absurd.
But I think even you would agree the reason he's doing that now is because he is trying to gin up the base. He's got to do something. He's afraid.
Of course. His whole thing, what is he going to do when he doesn't have an enemy left? Who's he going to go for next?
Right.
He has to have an enemy. That's what dictators do.
Yeah.
He created the enemy between us. We've never seen this before.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
To this degree. He couldn't use the economy, right? Because Obama had the economy going in the right direction. This country was never as great as when Obama was in power. His idea of make America great again I want to know exactly what time period he's talking about.
What era, right? What era he's talking about? You're right.
Right?
Allison, thank you.
Was he talking about the 50s? When,
Yeah,
when,
yeah.
I forget it was. Could you eat at the same table as him? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, we're definitely not talking about this time. Allison, the NAACP is asking each of us to organize 5 people in addition to ourselves. I know you already voted, but if you know 5 other people you can check with and make sure that they're going to vote.
Everybody I meet every single day, did you vote? Did you vote? This is about our existence, our life in America, our soul. And if people don't vote, and if the Republicans win the House and the Senate, we're screwed.
Yeah.
In this country. And people better wake up and realize that their freedoms are going to be taken from them if they don't pay attention.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
All right. Take care now. You know, one of the things, Derrick Johnson here with us, one of the things that we talked about even back in 2016 is how much the vote matters, Derrick, because when it comes to many of the issues that the NAACP addresses, civil rights being foremost, I mean, that comes to the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
And so our vote determines who the president is and then who that president is going to appoint to the Supreme Court. And right now, I mean, with the Kavanaugh appointment, which obviously the NAACP opposed, the balance on the court is ever tilting to the right.
Well, not on the Supreme Court, all of the federal bench.
True. All of it. Right.
There'll be many cases that would never make it to the Supreme Court because the lower court would decide on those issues. And in some cases, the decision of the lower court can be as final as the Supreme Court, especially if the Supreme Court refused to hear it.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, everything is at risk. That's why we say we must vote. Our lives depend on it. When we say our lives depend on it, all of the things we take for granted in this country can be taken away on top of all of the bad things we're fighting against can be accelerated. Mm-hmm. Our lives depend on it.
That's right. Derrick Johnson here with us. Derrick, there's also a poll out this morning, an NBC News Marist poll. And the question was about whether or not, or whether people are concerned that the tone in politics will lead to violence. 79% of those people polled say they are concerned that the current tone will lead to more violence.
I wish I'd have got with the person who wrote the question. The tone in politics has already led to violence.
Right.
You know, we're talking about what exists now, what is already taking place. We're talking about a woman who's a part of a protester in Charlottesville, Virginia, being ran over by a car by individuals who were marching Nazi style. We're talking about pipe bombs being placed in mail, putting everybody in that chain of custody in harm's way. We're talking about individuals who are in houses of worship, whether it's a synagogue or that Black Baptist church, now put at risk. We're talking about a father and a grandfather at a Kroger being shot for no other reason but shopping while black. This tone that's germinating from the White House has already put us at risk. The question is for voters, do we want to turn it around or do we want to allow it to continue to fester?
866-99 Series. Derrick Johnson in studio with us. We'll take a break. Derrick's going to step away for a minute and then he'll come back. Don't go away. Sirius XM Progress 127, the power of 5. Go to NAACP.org. Follow at NAACP on Twitter. Organize 5 people at least to go out and vote. Don't take for granted everybody's just going to do it. Help them, encourage them.
They live in your house.
That's right.
They live next door to you.
Sit at your dinner table at night.
You go to church with them. Get them to the polls.
This is MIP.